Okay, today we're going to go over chapter 2 in your book. It starts off with the new republic right after we wrote our Constitution, and it will end in the Reconstruction period, which is ended in 1877. To introduce this, the Bill of Rights is in here, and understand that the United States adopted this Constitution. A lot of the colonies, now states, said, I'm not signing that thing unless you list the rights of citizens, what rights they have that the federal government can't take away from them. They created 10 of them, and those are called the Bill of Rights. And so you'll go over that. You'll go over how the country started to develop, technology, the beginning of some railroads, the slavery question. Should slavery spread further south, further west? There was the Kansas question, as more states come into the Union. There was always a balance that you would have admit a slave state and admit a free state. When California was ready to become a state, in 1849, the gold rush brought so many people into the state. By 1850, California was ready to be a state. And so, but they didn't have a slave state to bring in with California. So the question was, if California comes in as a free state, that's going to cause problems with the balance in Congress. There were 15 free and 15 slave, and so that was going to cause trouble. And so the 1850s are essentially trying to manage the slavery issue. What do you do if slaves run away? The South wanted a Fugitive Slave Act, where they could go over and just grab escaped slaves or people they thought was escaped and bring them back to their masters. You had Dred Scott, a decision. It said that a slave was a slave no matter if you brought him to the free states or not. And then you have the outbreak of the Civil War. I think that one of the things that's really important to know about the Civil War is on the slavery question, the South, I think most people today think the South fought to keep slaves. And indeed, the Civil War, that was the dominant issue. But one of the things to remember is that most of the people in the South did not own slaves. And those who did owned maybe one. There were very few people who owned most of the slaves. There was a comment during the war that it was a rich man's war and a poor man's fight. But again, the Civil War was an extraordinary period in our time. There's a lot of material, a lot of books, a lot of documentaries made on that. If you're interested in that, you can ask your teacher and they can point you to that. And then following the Civil War came the Reconstruction period. It was a 12-year period where essentially it was a military occupation of the South. The federal troops were there to enforce civil rights. And then the question is how long are they going to be there? When are they going to be removed? And in 1877, there was a presidential election where there were disputed votes in Florida. And the election got thrown into the House of Representatives. We should have had a president named Samuel Tilden. He had the most electoral votes when the election got thrown into the House of Representatives, but he didn't win. And the reason is because the president who won, Rutherford B. Hayes, said, I will end Reconstruction. And so he was put into power. The federal troops were withdrawn, and Jim Crow, the segregation idea, began to take hold of the South, and that would permeate the South for the next 80, 90 years.